Hello, Seattle. Welcome to my weekly State of Seattle address. This week, I would like to tackle what the Seattle city is calling a head tax or a workable tax. How it'll work and what may not be good about it. Now, the tax would be levied next year on businesses that have at least $20 million in annual gross revenue from 2018 sales with a Seattle nexus. Generally, sales made to customers within the city, which means that if you're a company that owns a store like, say, the Westlake Shopping Mall, or the Space Needle, or movie theaters, or the Pike Place Market, it would be awful difficult to tell which parts of the money you make is from residents of Seattle or is from people that are living in other places but visiting Seattle, tourists. So, it says here, who would have to pay the so-called head tax, officially known as the employee hours tax. The city of Seattle estimates the proposed tax would apply to about 585 businesses. It won't identify them due to taxpayer confidentiality rules. That's not true. That's the reason they're giving you, but that's not true. The real reason that they're not going to tell you what the businesses are is because they're afraid people will find out who the businesses are, where the businesses are located, and people will protest those businesses. Yeah, that's what they're afraid of. Or they're afraid that the employees have friends that will find out that they're going to be giving this head tax. Now, the head tax is not going to help fix the roads. The head tax is not going to help beautify Seattle. The head tax is not going to help build new rental apartments. The head tax is going to be used, in theory, to help the homeless. Help the homeless do what? Stay homeless? Help the homeless bring their friends from other states to become homeless? Help organizations that make money already off the homeless make more money off the homeless? No. The money that's going to be used, or the money that gets taken, will be quite a bit of money. Now, I estimated about how much, and I'll tell you that in a little bit. Now, how that 20 million threshold is calculated depends on whether a company, whether its revenue comes from retailing, wholesaling, or providing services, and follows the city's income sourcing methodology for calculating business and occupation tax liability. Now, a company and a city calculate income differently. Companies have a way to calculate income that gives them the benefit of the doubt. The city calculates income to take as much money from the company as possible. Amazon and Starbucks have pledged $25,000 each to campaign for a referendum on the Seattle head tax, which means that they want to try to get their 2 cents worth in so they can stop it. For retailers and wholesalers, revenue is only counted if the customer is in the city. Now, Amazon doesn't sell most of their stuff to the city. They sell about 90% of all of their items to other places, other cities. So they would basically be exempt from that. For service providers, including law firms, engineers, architects, accountants, and some technology companies, The city uses a formula to determine how much revenue should be taxed within the city. Now, Microsoft has got people in Seattle that use Microsoft products, but there again, 90, about 90, I'm just pulling this off the top of my head because it seems appropriate and it seems feasible to say that. I would say 90% of Microsoft's products are being sold outside of the city of Seattle. I don't see 50% of Seattle, I don't see 50% of Microsoft going to Seattle. I see 50% of Microsoft's money going into Bill Gates' pocket. For service providers, including law firms, engineers, architects, accountants, and some other. Okay, the formula takes into account the proportion of a company's total payroll that's based in Seattle. So, the company that is based in Seattle, how much are you guys making annually? Like if you owned a bakery and you sold baked goods to local grocery stores, how much would your bakery have made before all your bills are paid at the end of the year? As well as revenues from services provided to customers in the city to determine the share of its total revenue that is taxable in Seattle. When it says total revenue, that doesn't mean after the bills. That doesn't mean after the taxes. That means total. How much you made total. For a company that hits the 20 million threshold, you just barely make the 20 million mark. The proposed tax applies to all of its Seattle employees at a rate of 26 cents per hour. 26 cents per hour. Now, if say they took 1 hour out of your work month, you're working 40 hours a week, you're working 5 days a week, you're working 4 weeks out of the month, and you took 26 cents out of 1 hour's paycheck. Say you're making $10 to $15 an hour basic, and they take 26 cents out of that amount. That's not very much money. But if you were to take 26 cents out of an hour for 8 hours, that's a whole ton of money. Especially when it is being done 5 days a week, 4 weeks out of the year, 4 weeks out of the month, and 12 months out of the year. Now what I mean by that is that when it's all said and done, this is what the basic tax should be, or the basic amount should be. Now, you have to forgive me, this is my first State of Seattle weekly address. Now, you took that 26 cents out of that hour worth of wages, just 26 cents, not 26 cents or 26%, just 26 cents, and you do that for a whole year. That equals $348,441. No, I'm sorry. 348,441,600 for all of the people that are working in Seattle for a whole year. I'm basing that on the fact that there's probably about 600 and some thousand residents in Seattle. That's of 2016. It's probably way more than that now. But if you got about 600 and some thousand people living in Seattle, and you turn around and you take 26 cents per hour, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 4 weeks out of the month, 12 months out of the year, Seattle would end up paying $348,441,600 a year. Now, where do you think that money is going to go? Do you think the city is going to take that money and give it straight to the homeless? Do you think they're gonna divide that up between the Union Gospel Mission, the Downtown Emergency Service Center? Do you think they're going to give that to the Salvation Army? Do you think they're going to give that to other homeless shelters that are in the Pioneer Square area? Do you think they're going to give that to people that are giving out free sleeping bags and free clothing and that are doing soup kitchens? Hell no. Seattle is going to figure out how to take some of that money for themselves, and that's going to dwindle. That 348,441,600 is going to go down, I betcha, to 100 million. They're going to have about 100 million left over. I can almost guarantee you that the city is going to figure out some way to sneak some of that money into other places. Your hard-earned money that is supposed to be going to help the homeless, the city will take that money and use it for other things. They're taking your good earned money and they're throwing it after bad money. And it's not helping the homeless. Nope. It's not going to fix the homeless problem. It's not going to do anything but help the homeless stay homeless. They'll have better sleeping bags. They'll have better tents. The cities will have better areas for them to be homeless. And it's going to be the tourists and regular citizens that are hurting. Yeah. Now, when I talk about this, I mean what I say. Seattle is in a very bad way. Cost of living is way up here. Rental is way up here. The homeless problem is way up here. Seattle, I want to know exactly what we, you and I, Seattle, you and I, what are we going to do to fix the problem? The state has passed a law that says that housing cannot be regulated by the city unless a local apartment manager decides that, our local apartment owner decides that they want to work with the city to house the homeless or the low income. Then they can agree that they will charge this much money and the city would go along with that. But the state made it so the mafia don landlords that run Seattle and most of the state of Washington, they have made it, the state has made it that they have the run of the city. They can charge whatever they want, and Seattle is just screwed. You guys are just screwed. Yep. When I become mayor in 2021, I plan on fixing that. I've been writing to the governor of the state. I've been writing to the mayor and the city council. I've had the city council. In just this previous video that I just put up, I told you one of the city councilwomen, Lisa Herbold, Lisa Herbold, she told me her blog, anyway, I forget how to pronounce the name, but it's in my previous video. The councilwoman gave me the basic spiel. She said that they were doing all they could, but basically it was nothing. They weren't doing anything. They were just doing typical political whitewash. Yeah. Now, I'm going to try to talk to some of the business owners in downtown Seattle. I'm going to find out where they're at, and I'm going to give them a call. I'm going to talk to them about this new head tax. Now, I can do that with my cell phone because I have unlimited minutes, like most everybody else that doesn't pay as you go. I have unlimited minutes, which means that I can talk to people throughout the city and let them know that I'm running for mayor in 2021, that I oppose the head tax because, let's face it, it's not going to do any good. It's just going to cost people money. In a city where the cost of living is already high, you're asking the citizens to give more of their money that they don't really have. The ones that you should be asking to pay this head tax for is the Seattle Seahawks and Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and the people that own Amazon. You should be asking those guys to give you money to help the problem because they can afford it. The regular citizens always are the ones that have to pay the bill. It's like you and the rich go out to dinner, you the citizen and the rich business owners go out to dinner, or you and the city council goes out to dinner, and when the check comes, the city council gets up and starts to walk out and they tell the waiter, oh, he'll take care of it. And just like a good citizen, we do. We pay for it. In more ways than one. Not just financially. We pay for it. We get stuck with high taxes. We get stuck with the carnage from the leftovers. Pretty soon, and I said this in my other video, pretty soon the city of Seattle will be taxed so high and rent so high, cost of living so high. Pretty soon you'll be walking into a McDonald's and for a Big Mac it's going to cost you $20. We can stop all this. You and I, Seattle, you know who I'm talking to, you and I can stop the high cost of living and the high rent. We need to band together. We need to fight. Not physically fight like throwing bottles at buildings and breaking windows or doing any of that crazy mess. But we need to go together. And I get it. A lot of people are working. They can't really afford to get together and do stuff. But there's an awful lot of citizens that really don't have a whole lot to do during the day. They're low income or disabled. There's people that are disabled that can go door to door and collate for the cause. You have weekends, but which is more important to you? Fixing Seattle's problem or going on a kayak trip or a basketball game? Well, we don't have basketball in Seattle anymore. Football game, or right now it's baseball. How many people would sacrifice a baseball game for the sake of the city of Seattle? Take a day off to fight for our city? Or would you go to the baseball game? Which is more important, Seattle? Back in the old days, Motown had a way of deciding if a song was good enough. When they would create a song, Motown, Berry Gordy would do this. He would hold up the 45 in one hand. He would hold up a sandwich in his other hand, and he said, if you had enough money to buy a sandwich for lunch or this record, which would you buy? If they chose the sandwich for lunch, they would scrap the record and they would go on to the next record. As soon as he held up both and they picked the record, they would pick the record over the sandwich. He would pick the record and put it out as a hit. Seattle, we need to do that. We need to find out what's important to you. Is a sandwich more important than your pastime? Is the city of Seattle more important than our pastime and our leisure time? Is the city of Seattle more important than going to a bar and getting drunk? Is the city of Seattle more important than going on a vacation? You got to figure out what your priorities are, and you got to figure out how you are going to fix them. I pledge, if I become mayor, and I say if because what I want to do is radical, and I want to get it started like right now. If I could fix Seattle right this minute, I would do it. Well, I'm not going to be able to just walk in there and push my weight around. I'm going to need you guys to help me. I'm going to need you guys to have my back and let me have yours. If I bring up an idea that's good for the city and you guys believe that it's good for your city, stand up for me. Stand up for the idea. If I come up with an idea that's not so great, but you like little pieces of it and can help it become good, tell me. If you like a good idea that can become better, tell me that too. If it's a great idea, applaud it and stand up with me. Stand up with me, Seattle. Say it. We can do this. We can do this. There's a song that comes to mind, and I'm going to say a little piece of it because this is exactly how I feel. Back in the 80s, there was a rock and roll group called Twisted Sister. They did a song called We're Not Gonna Take It. And some of the lyrics say, we're not going to take it, we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it anymore. We have the right to refuse it. We have the right to not choose it. We have the right to use it, but we're not going to take it anymore. The rent is sky high. It's causing Seattle to die. We're not going to take it anymore. I've got to work on that, but there's a song in there somewhere. But the sentiment's the same. Are we going to take it anymore, Seattle? When is enough enough? Are we going to allow the state to rake us over the coals and not have our backs? The state is taking away our inalienable right to the liberty, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The inalienable rights that we have say that we have the right to life. Now, some people will say that means that you have the right to live and nobody has the right to kill you. That's not what it means. What it means is that we have the right to live and prosper. And we have the right to a life. But when you have to pay so much in rent and so much in the cost of living, you have a very low quality of life. Your quality of life goes down the tubes. Which means that we no longer have liberties. They're strangling our liberties. And upon doing that, they're also taking away our pursuits of happiness. Now, it doesn't say we'll ever achieve happiness, but it does say that we have the right to pursue it, which means whatever we think will make us happy, within reason, we have the right. Now, you got to use good common sense, and you got to use personal moral judgment on this. The Founding Fathers had that. They assumed we would too. When we're doing our pursuit of happiness, now you know there's some things that are just wrong. You know they're wrong. And if you don't know they're wrong, you need to be locked up in the cuckoo house. Killing somebody because it makes us feel happy. That's wrong. Going out with somebody that's underage against their will, that may make us happy, but that's wrong. We know that's wrong. Abusing elderly people, that could make us happy, but that's wrong. We know it's wrong. The majority knows it's wrong. That's not just a personal opinion. That is a moral consensus, which means that a good percentage, pretty much 90, maybe 95% of all people believe that those things are wrong. You shouldn't do those things while you're pursuing your happiness. Now, I have life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, but if I do those and I jeopardize somebody else's freedoms, that's wrong too. So, the state has strangled our right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. They have destroyed those by stopping the cities from being able to stop the high cost of rent. And by the cities not stopping the high cost of living, they have basically left us in a very dark and deep hole. And the dirt is caving in on us. And pretty soon, Seattle will cost so much to live there, and the rent will be so high, and the homeless will be so much more out of whack, that Seattle will die, because everybody will move out of Seattle for another place to live that's cheaper, because no matter how much money Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook pays people, they will never be able to afford to pay the rent in Seattle. So I ask again, Seattle, what are we going to do to fix it? That has been the State of Seattle address, brought to you by me, your future mayor of 2021. This has been All Things Considered, because I consider all things. Have a good night, Seattle. May God bless you, and I love every one of you.